Knowing that Eleanor looks exactly like Lucille's sister Angelina, the grandfather tells Masaru that after his marriage to Angelina, he got only one daughter and he named her Eleanor. Years after, the couple decide to adopt a boy who's named Dean and changed his name to Sadayoshi, Masaru's father. The couple was in seventh heaven, especially when the lady announces her pregnancy news to her husband days after, and it happens for the first time to a female Sharuge. Guy unexpectedly comes in and starts telling his side of the story, starting by his childhood in the hospital, fighting the Zonapha syndrome alone because his mother abandoned him to the day where he decided to go for Angelina's baby. He wanted to get him as the first Sharuge's baby ever, in order to do some medical research and make some Sharugan get pregnant. The mother didn't accept and started a fight with him, but when he fell wounded, she cared for him wholeheartedly and asked him to live with her as if he was her son. The grandfather interrupts and takes the boy Masaru through his memory again to see the day when he met Francine the doll, and took it to Angelina as he was surprised of how much they look alike. When Guy saw her, he recognized her and showed the intention of killing her, but the lady stopped him. Right at that moment, Angelina falls down as she is finally ready to give birth. Guy helped her to get the baby out, and it was the most beautiful thing that Francine the doll had ever seen, and they named it Eleanor. Guy and the doll promised each other to keep the girl safe and to forget their enmity. One night, as the family was about to sleep, an army of automatons came over. Francine the doll faced them alone and ordered them, as she is the head of the Midnight Circus, to leave that place. However, none of them listened to her and stabbed her, asking for the baby girl. Angelina, Shoji, and Guy decide to fight the automatons, and they trusted Francine to flee with Eleanor. As the doll ran through the jungle holding the baby, she fell inside a well. Suddenly, the water started getting red due to the aqua vitae, which was inside the baby Eleanor, and because Francine was an automaton, she couldn't resist and broke down. The lady died in the battle, and the only two survivors are Shoji and Guy, who promised Angelina to protect her daughter till his last breath. In an emotional moment, he realized how Francine protected the baby, which meant so much for him and for the humanity at that time. Masaru wakes up and finds out that Guy wants to kill him, so he runs out and promises to prove his true identity and that his father's memory didn't download successfully in his mind. On his way out, he meets Eleanor, but before saying anything, he fell off the edge and starts a new adventure in his grandfather's memory. When Shoji decides to raise Eleanor as an orphan after her mother's death and to protect her since she had the aqua vitae inside of her. After a couple of years, he pretended to be a rich man who wanted to adopt her, but he gets shocked when the kid recognizes him and reveals that she met him already. The only explanation for such a thing was the presence of someone who disguised like him and met the girl. After analyzing the case with Guy, it was quite obvious. Saiga Sadayoshi did that for sure. The father decided to face his adopted son, who revealed his love to Angelina and how he hated her since he knew she was pregnant. He also explained how did he plan for the attack by creating all those automatons and attack Angelina and kill her. In shock, the father asks to know his future plan, so he reveals his scientific process of downloading someone's personal information in another person's body, and that is what he planned to do with Masaru, and he will make Eleanor protect him by showing up in disguise with her grandfather's face. And slowly he will make her believe she's a puppet and her only purpose in life is to protect Masaru after downloading his memory and information in his body. The boy wakes up and finds himself in the same room where he ran away and finds Shoji explaining how he did his best to protect Masaru from his father. He even took the risk and jumped in an acid pool while holding Sadayoshi in order to kill him and free the world from his evil. And while he keeps talking, a man stands up and says he's Sadayoshi, and at the same time Beijing, Dean Meister, and also the commander Faceless, since he copied his identity in all their bodies. Then he attacks the little boy and breaks the glass where the grandfather keeps the rest of his body immersed in a medical fluid to keep himself alive. Eleanor interferes but gets stabbed. Faceless takes her and flies away to his airship. On the other side, the grandfather died in his grandson's arm and goes to meet his dead wife. While Masaru cries his loss, some of the villagers fell down due to the Zonapha syndrome. The TV turns on and Faceless reveals that he sent one of his puppets to make an end to all human beings. And more puppets are flying, blowing the biblical trumpets of the apocalypse. Masaru gets angry and his attention to take the revenge guides him from now on. He flies toward the puppet in the sky and hits her. Then it turns out they're a cloud of the Zonapha pathogen. By touching them, the gas will make people suffer till death. Lies decide to go with Masaru to look for Faceless, but Guy stayed down there. Suddenly Narumi shows up and asks Guy to take him to the Zonapha Syndrome Research Institute, where the doctors announce that a machine to drive out the Apollyon bugs that cause Zonapha has been completed. The machine is called Harry, and the airship Faceless gathers the 3 survivors of Le Carpoignet and makes fun of them. Back to Lies and Masaru, who are flying to their destination. The girl starts telling the story of her sister who was killed by a tiger called Beast, and since that incident, she couldn't tame those furious animals anymore. In the institute, a big battle between automatons and humans got started, and Minxia finds herself alone face to face with Gambler Jones. In the airship, 3 survivors of Le Carpoignet are feeling disappointed of the way Faceless was treating them, unlike how their old leader Francine used to treat them. Suddenly, when they get inside a royal room, they find Eleanor, who looks exactly like Francine, so they sanctify it as if she is a goddess. At the beginning, she didn't agree on that, but she learned how to take advantage of the situation and made her condition clear. Do not ever kill a human being, or I will not forgive you. Back to the basement of the Institute, where Minxia defeated the automaton and saved Tom, who reveals that he was the first person to try Harry the Machine, and it worked perfectly on him. Right up, George LaRoche and Aereo plays a happy song using the piano to cheer the kids up when an explosion happened outside. When he goes to check it out, he finds an automaton waiting for him. At the same time, Aereo Ashihana tries to get out, but he finds Pentalon, who gives him the total freedom to walk outdoor, but he refuses and insists to have a fight with him to feed his ego. Unfortunately, George lost his battle, and so did Aereo, because the automaton were well prepared for it. In the Institute, Narumi, Guy, Minxia, and the little boy Tom walk through the hall and discuss how the machine Harry looks like, when they suddenly hear the kids screaming. They rush to see what's happening there, and as expected, they found a group of automatons about to drink those kids' blood. Narumi wears his mask and takes their heads off with no mercy. Right after that, Guy decides to stay inside and protect the patient while the rest goes out to check how things are going with George and Aereo. In parallel, faceless soldiers keep an eye on the doctors who are working hard to keep the machine Harry in a good condition. But when it turns off, they come inside to take it over. Back to Aereo, the tricky man who didn't decide whether Mr. Pontonal can end the battle or not. He talks on a different topic with him, and the poor automaton believes and asks to know how he can make Francine smile. Aereo asks him to get closer since his wounds are deep and he can't talk, but it was all a trick to stab him in the right place. When the adversary decides to hit back, he remembered the condition which Eleanor said, and he doesn't kill him. However, his deep wounds will. On the other side, George LaRoche somehow gets overpowered and defeats his adversary, but he gave more than what he can handle and fell down. To enjoy the blue color of the sky for the last time, his friend Aereo comes and hands him a cigarette, but it's too late since he preferred the fresh air to be the last thing he smells. Inside the Institute, Narumi enters the room where the machine was, and he realized he's too late after seeing the doctor's blood in the floor. There are two automatons, so Minxia joins him. After defeating the first one, he turns back to see the girl laying down swimming in her own blood. He simply activates his superpower organs and uses all the new technique he has in order to defeat that flying clown, and he destroys him in the worst possible way ever. Back to the girl, and due to the aquavita effect inside her blood, Narumi seems to be less concerned about her situation. Outside, Guy faces the army on his own and promises Narumi to keep fighting, but they are too many and he consumed all his powers. Aereo calls a magical train over and takes the patient, the nurse, and the machine out of the station. The automatons outside are one step away from killing Guy. Mr. Pantalone does something strange and protects the human over his automaton kind and beats them all. Narumi after that comes out in the train and takes them with him. In the sky, Masaru and Lies arrive to the airship where Faceless is, but before getting inside, many small robots come out to stop them, and they destroy the pumpkin doll which flew with them, and they fall down. Sooner after that, they open their eyes to find themselves in front of the Mont Saint-Michel, an old monastery in France, and the place where the automatons are keeping Eleanor as a hostage. Then the pair gets surprised when Dr. Lau, the wild beast tamer, shows up to stop them with an army of beasts created to work with animal brains. They drink human blood to keep running since they are automatons. Lies prefers to take this matter in charge, while the little boy gets inside Mont Saint-Michel to save Eleanor. The boy sneaks in, but Columbine, one of the 4 oldest automata, finds out about it, and after an emotional discussion, she decides to let him go and shows him the right way to her room. But before he goes, Naya Steele, the commander of the Android OS that guard Mont Saint-Michel, comes over and knocks Columbine down, considering her a traitor. She reveals on her turn that Faceless has given them the latest bodies, and their original personalities have been downloaded into them to create a group of mechanical life forms that surpass humans. Masaru tells them that they are a piece of junk, and this didn't please their ears, so they get ready to make him feel a dose of physical pain, but Columbine makes her move and decide to help the boy because he held her between his arms. On the other side, Al-Lokin manages saving lives from a beast, and to thank him, she smiles at him, so he confesses to her that he has never been thanked nor smiled at by a human before, and this makes him catch some feelings. Back to Columbine, who made the boy jump into a hole, where she explained her goal in life, which is to make her Lord Francine smiles. As they keep walking, they reach a lab where original human bodies are kept while their information get downloaded to automatons. Lies, while she was trying to hide in a dark room, she accidentally fell inside another hole where the smells of animals was quite obvious. It is where the beasts that weren't chosen are cast away. In the lab, Masaru discovers the sleeping bodies in a special antioxidant solution. Columbine explains how the owners of these bodies hide their true identity and wear other automatic forms to do whatever they want outside these walls. But suddenly, the automatons arrive and a battle seems to get started soon. In the other hole, Lies gets terrified after finding herself in front of the most dangerous monsters, and Faceless forces Eleanor to watch both Lies and Masaru in their separated battles facing death. Lies remembers how she tamed her first tiger tiger and decide to face her fear. And what better way for a tamer to die than to be eaten by beasts? And so does the boy who attacks the automatons with no hesitation. The girl realized her dream and tamed all the beasts to come out and face the Dr. Lau, who freaks out and runs away, but she follows him. In the lab, the pair Masaru and Columbine manage opening the incubation capsules, and the automatons find themselves in front of their true bodies, so they freak out and they start killing each other. After that, the boy decided to keep moving forward until he met Faceless and a group of his servants. One of them took Eleanor away and let the group face the little boy alone. Suddenly, Griffin throws the puppet out looking into his master in order to help him in his fight with faceless soldiers. On the other side, while Lice tries to find the little boy, she coincides a rocket, and Arlequin explains that Lord Faceless is going to ride it together with Lady Francine, who is actually Eleanor. They will go 480 km above Earth to a space station that has been repurposed by Lord Faceless. Narumi on the other side with the old man, who reveals the existence of a giant space station being built in the Earth orbit. It is called Alpha. The US, Japan, European countries, Canada and Russia are collaborating on a joint project, but unfortunately they lost contact with the 6 astronauts constructing it, and Zonapha struck the world right after that. So powerful electric waves were emitted towards Earth from that station, and probably those waves control the syndrome bugs. Narumi goes to the Mont Saint-Michel to save Eleanor. The girls Columbine and Lice take Masaru's place to fight the automatons, while he rushes to save Eleanor after knowing the true plan of transporting her in a rocket to space. On his way, he meets Faceless, who tries to convince him to sit in the chair in order to download his memories inside his small body and to get the chance of being loved by Eleanor. The boy refuses, but the man was way too powerful than him, and he knocks him down. The boy passes out, and Faceless takes the advantage of that. Griffin watches but can't do anything, and the download successfully happened. Masaru and Faceless are now supposed to be the same person. They go to the rocket, and the countdown in progress 20 minutes, and the rocket will lift off. The two copies made a plan to trick Eleanor and try to make up the death of Faceless and create a whole scenario where Masaru wins, but in fact, it is Faceless who does. The boy confesses that he drank from Eleanor's blood once, in order to be protected from any automaton's attack, which means he drank the richest aquavitae, and the process of downloading an automata's memory inside his brain will fail for sure. Then he rushes to free the lady in the chair, but he figures out the impossibility of dismantling those chains or that chair. However, the boy got an intelligent idea and squeezed her shoulders in order to free her, and it happened. Faceless in shock doesn't want to leave her hand, but she takes off and holds Masaru's hand instead. After falling from the rocket while it's liftoff, Columbine manages creating a fluffy bubble and save their lives. The boy threw Eleanor off the edge to Narumi, who caught her and went back to Columbine, who got totally destroyed by Diamantina. He gives her a warm hug to thank her for all the sacrifice he did for him and for his friends. Eleanor opens her eyes in bed, and Narumi didn't remember her face or her name since he has the temporary memory loss. He shows her all the survivors and makes her understand the necessity of making some medical tests in order to make sure she's not an automaton. All the survivors treat her badly and humiliate her, especially Mencia, who blames her for the death of her father and friends. After that, Faceless shows up again in a video call with a mansion, but in another man's body, and promises to come back and take his beloved Eleanor. A couple of days later, Faceless sends them a final broadcast saying he has ordered every Apollyon to accelerate the progression of Zonapha syndrome. Everyone on Earth with Zonapha will die within the next 2 weeks. Guy explains that even after killing Faceless, who's in space station 480 km above Earth, Apollyon bugs will keep working until all mankind is dead. The old man reveals the Hari machine, which was developed and modified to emit waves and to treat humans one at a time. Zonapha bugs did never get close to the machine more than 8 meters, so the next plan stands on sending the machine to a space station by attaching it to a space shuttle, which will be sent up to space. The team of Karakuri Circuit will be sent for the mission, because they can resist the syndrome bugs since they spend a lot of time with Eleanor. Her blood is the purest aquavitae in the world, the elixir of life, and it's all around her, in her tears, in her sweat, in her breath. That is why the Karakuri Circus gain an immunity against the disease. Later at night, Guy takes Mencia and shows her how Eleanor sacrificed her life in order to save people by bleeding into drinking water, which will change it to an elixir. Now the only one who does not believe her is Narumi. Back to Masaru, who's having dinner with his teacher named Charles Montfort, and she informs him that a big guy once saved her from the automatons and his name is Narumi. It is now when the boy realizes that his friend is alive, because when he threw Eleanor, he couldn't see who caught her since it was hazy. The next morning, the boy flies with a full heart, hoping to find Narumi. And in parallel, Karakuri Circus, including Narumi, saw that mission, while the other survivors flies to the Cosmodrome. Right after that, the automatons attack the mansion, and there is no one except Guy, who decide to be the man of the show and face the 3,000 robots. A couple of minutes later, the man got exhausted and the automatons didn't stop beating him, but Masaru arrives at the right time to help Guy. He refuses and asks him to follow the rail until he reaches the train to protect Eleanor instead. Not far since then, the whole building collapsed and Guy died like no one ever imagined. Captain Graziani decided to follow the train, and he took the survivors from the collapse with him. In the train, Velma gave the knives to the crew in order to protect themselves if anything happens, and the crew convinced Eleanor and Narumi to stay in the same wagon. The automatons caught up Masaru, but he managed running away, and they seemed to get closer to the train. Velma felt their presence and faced them. The sky rained bullets for a moment. She decided to use her knives instead of using fire. The automatons were so powerful, and alone, she couldn't do much things. Suddenly, Masaru arrives and thought he saved her, but things took another path when Velma pointed her knife on the apple, which was on her opponent's forehead. Right after shooting her, she also got a knife on her forehead and passed away. Masaru arrives to the train and tells Nakamichi circus crew all what happened to him. Then he asks to see Eleanor, but they explain that she is in the same wagon with Narumi in order to give her the happiness she never lived. They saw her memories and how she suffered all during her life, so they decide to create at least a couple of moments with her lover, especially after knowing that he will not come back from the space mission. Narumi remembers the details of his relationship with Eleanor, but it is too late. He says that his memory will give them sadness, only since he's not coming back from the mission, and there will be no future for them as a couple. In the next day, the automatons attack the train. One of them looks exactly like Hiro and Noriyuki's mother, who passed away a long time ago. The thing which makes them distracted and not fighting properly. But then, two of them manage keeping her busy, watching their performance, while one of them separates the wagons and saves Eleanor and Narumi. Then they destroy the rail by planting a bomb there, so when the train stopped, they manage to step in her chest. On the other side, Pantalon and Archino face two other automatons, Brigella, Deval Brebana, and Arlequin, but unfortunately, they lose. Arlequin, who's obsessed with Eleanor and his goal in life to make her smile, catches up with the train. When she opens the door of the wagon, she finds her puppet Arlequin, and she uses it to fight and protect Narumi. She cuffs Arlequin's hand and takes him away. Suddenly, Narumi hears some step up on the shadow, so he goes to see what's wrong, and he finds Brigella, one of the most powerful automatons. Narumi, while fighting him, he recalls all the bad words he said to Eleanor and how he was mean to her, so he decides to fight with all his powers in order to stay alive and apologize to her, and indeed, he defeats his opponent. Masaru on the other side faces Captain Graziano and proves to him that human children are not powerless. He remembers his friend Narumi and the strength he got from him. It all gave him a push and flies with the puppet to a very high altitude and jumps right to Graziano's face with a sword and a large smile on his face. He uses his pass, or what they call the power of tradition, and tore him up. The train arrived to the luncheon station and the crew was preparing for the liftoff in 30 minutes. The space shuttle is ready, and so is Narumi. But suddenly, the automatons arrive, and instead of taking his place in the shuttle, he finds himself fighting so many of them. In the middle of his fight, he felt that his back has been protected, but he didn't recognize who does it. When he turns around, he sees Masaru, and hand in hand, he managed killing them all by the end of the day. Right at the end, the kid flashes the automaton's camera at Narumi, so his retina get burned, and they will take time to recover. That's why the boy will go in the mission instead, and he reveals that he's so much powerful than him. Masaru wears his suit and gets ready for the liftoff. On the other side, Arlequin forces Eleanor to marry him, but she runs away. After a couple of minutes, the automaton fights a baby and plans to drink his blood, but the lady stops him, and right after that, Narumi arrives. He understood that his only purpose in life is to make Eleanor happy, and he killed Arlequin. The shuttle is on his way to the space station, and the couple is having the most beautiful moment in their relationship. The automatons Pantalon and Arlecchino arrived at the end of their journey after seeing the happiness in their leader's eyes. In the space station, Masaru finds a totally different world, made specially to please Faceless. He created an uncountable number of Francine dolls to live the dream he lost many years ago. The boy begs Faceless to give him the cure, but he refuses and plans to take his revenge from all humankind for taking his beloved away. They summon their puppets and start fighting. In the middle of this battle, Masaru thinks about the type of his relationship with Eleanor and find out that he was in love with her and still. When Faceless is about to kill the boy, Diamantine interrupts and asking her lord if he loves her or he just sees her as a useful tool. But unfortunately, she didn't get the answer she wanted to hear, so she stabs him before he crushes her automatic body. But it turns out that she planted bombs in all the space station, which led to an explosion. Before Faceless dies, he reveals the secret of Zonapha syndrome, which is Eleanor's singing. Since her voice changes the Zonapha bug's operative mode from making people sick to curing people's sickness, the mission has been successfully done, and the boy manages going back to the real world, leaving Faceless behind. The Zonapha syndrome disappeared from the existence, and the Nakamichi circus made a big success. The couple Narumi and Eleanor lived happily ever after, and we can clearly admit that love can be peaceful and warm just as much as it can ruin the whole world. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you next time with another anime recap. Take care!